Right. So welcome everybody. It's the first KASKlezing of this semester, and probably also one of the most exciting ones, I guess. Normally with a concert you have like a headliner at the end of all the other acts. This year we start with it, but of course we hope that you will also continue to come to the other lectures. For example, next week is Jonas Staal, it's also here. So it's a bit different than normally this whole semester because of the corona. So some lectures will be here, some in the CITIC, and you have to subscribe to join, but as you all here, I guess you found out about this. So maybe to say something about our guests of tonight, Thomas Hirschhorn. I think more or less you all know who he is. At least I know that in the first bachelor he's being discussed, in the second bachelor he's being discussed, and in the third bachelor we also discuss his practice. So I believe you have an audience of experts that all know him, but for the people who don't know him, he's a Swiss-born artist, and in 1983 he joined Howest, a very political group of graphic designer, collective, a bit of a communistic collective maybe, without pointing out their own names. From an early beginning, when he started working after he left Howest, he started working with audiences, or maybe finding ways of connecting with audiences. I'm not sure if the audience is a good name, maybe with participants would be a better name, since his practice is very much about this connecting people. So in the beginning, he made flyers that he would go to metro stations to give away these flyers, or he would go to car park exhibitions. Tonight he's here to talk about a work that he made for PIP, the Biennale de l'Image Possible, which helped us very much, or which is actually the main organizer as well for this lecture. So especially Anne-Françoise Le Suisse, I would like to thank. This work will also be the main topic of this lecture, and it's very much about or not very much, maybe part, I don't know, we'll let Thomas talk about it, the connection with philosophy. I think this connection is, of course, also very much present in his work already from the late 90s when he made the Monument series, focusing on different philosophers as Gramsci, Bataille, Spinoza, and Deleuze. So 4 monuments, and the Bataille monument, for example, was part of the Documenta in 2002 in Kassel. This practice as a graphic designer, I think it's always coming back, and I think this is very much to do with how his practice evolved from there. Especially if you look to the Monument series, for example, this is a practice that you can call out, and that he himself called as collage in 3D, like this finding of ideas, what are the ideas, what are elements, how does image work with text, and how can this become a 3D element. So also in his maps, for example, that he made for stehe ich, was will ich, and where do I stand, where do I want, where he makes a drawing, where he makes a collage, deciding on his own position, and afterwards this can become a 3D element. And when I say he talks about it, he speaks about this, I'm thinking about his writings. He has a very big oeuvre of writings, writings that are very clear, very straightforward, very interesting and triggering writings. So it's definitely, if you don't know his writings, read them. And for example, one of the writings that's in the edition that Hal Foster edited, there is a writing about the importance of lectures and the importance of artist lectures and why he wants to give lectures. So I think that's also very promising for tonight. So this is more or less what I want to say as an introduction, but maybe not before I pointed out a nice anecdote. This is not the first time that Thomas Hirschhorn is here in Ghent, and I mean, he was here 10 years ago when he had a big and a very important exhibition at MDD, and important for MDD. And 20 years ago when he was showing a work in SMAC, and about this exhibition in SMAC was a nice anecdote that Wim Alpert, who later became the director of KIOSK and now the director of La Boy, He was still an artist. He just finished KASK, and together with Piet Martens, who knows the curator in that werk asked, they made a work, their 100 favorite artists. And on number 1 of this list, there was Thomas Hirschhorn. So this was 20 years ago, and they made a performance about this. And I'm 100% sure if we in the audience make a list of our 100 favorite artists, at least for some of them, Thomas Hirschhorn will be number 1. So I think this is telling a lot about his practice. So now please give a warm welcome to Thomas Hirschhorn.
Thank you very much, Godard. Today I want to speak about gravity and grace, and I want to share with you some thoughts about my actual work, one of my actual work. I invited 2 years ago for a lecture. The title was Grace and Gravity. And when I told it to my wife, she said, but grace and gravity is Simone Weil. So I started to look about Simone Weil, which I know, I must say, but I must admit, never read. And suddenly, or immediately, I was struck by what she wrote. This is the first book, Gravity and Grace, which I wrote, and I was immediately implicated. So she said, tous les mouvements naturels de l'âme sont régis par des lois analogues à celles de la pesanteur matérielle. La grâce seule fait exception. Only grace is an exception on the laws of gravity, are the law analog to the what the soul is conducted by. I think it's beautiful to put on one side all the laws of gravity. I mean, we put on high or low, it comes up and down, and then something very different, the grace. So to me, it was especially, and I'm coming back in my lecture later, it was especially important and touching because as an artist, I use since years the term of grace. So this lecture here, the invitation, and also the reason why I'm in Belgium is also due to the Biennale of the Image of Possible in Liège, where Anne-Françoise de Suisse invited me to be part of. By the way, I can encourage you, not for my work, but go to Liège and see this powerful, I think necessary Biennale. It's charged with a lot of works which are, I think, very clear and very concerning questions of the reality of the world and the time we are living in. So I'm happy that Anne-Françoise invited me to be part of the Biennale, and I did show the chat posters. And Godard, my only correction is that I didn't make the chat posters for the Biennale of Liège, but I'm very happy that they are there, and I'm coming back why. So these are works I did this year, concluded it this year, at the beginning of the years. It's a view into one of the spaces of the Biennale called Decathlon. There are 23 chat posters, and there is a Simone Weil white train. So the chat posters It's an imaginary dialogue with the thinking, with excerpts of the thinking of Simone Weil. I use cardboard, which I had to glue on a wood panel, and I used the easiness of this kind of conversation you can have with somebody. I used the signs, the emoticons, the stickers, you know, from WhatsApp, and of course the text bubbles. We use whole graphic structure of WhatsApp conversation. And always, of course, I use the excerpts of Simone Weil's thinking. So I did it this way. There are 4 parts for the chart poster. 4 parts. One part, the citation of Simone Weil. I thought, you know, I found her thinking is so profound. Why not just chat it and share it? That was my idea. So just to give very profound thinkings over into WhatsApp. So therefore, there is this excerpts. And by the way, I like very much to use excerpts, not only from Simone Weil, but because to me, excerpts and citations are always the opening into something, or like a door into going into the whole thing. So I use them white or green. You know, there are these 2 colors. I mean, in my iPhone, there are 2 colors possible. So I use it either white or green. Then the other part, I didn't want to intervene with questions. I thought this is not appropriate. So I just use emoticons. This is my response in a way, or my question. Emoticons is the second part. The third part of this conversation are always pictures of destruction, destroyed houses, destruction, old destruction, new destruction of collapsed houses by a gas explosion, by war, by misconstruction, whatever. Always, every chat poster had a picture of destruction. And I used, this is the 4th part in this chat poster, crystals, mountain crystals. I use mountain crystal because they're very old. You know, they're between 12 and 20 million years they are produced. So they're very old. So I wanted to introduce in this very flat cardboard surface, I wanted to introduce something very old who has another dimension of time and propose kind of also another materiality, the crystals, which follow another logic, and also have aspect or are used as aspects to heal. Therefore, these 4 elements to do the chat poster. And then, of course, I used the graphics, the aesthetics, the repetition you can do with the chats. And of course, attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity, a phrase of Simone Weil. That's how I conceived these 23 chat posters. So what is the impact of art on reality? This is the question of this biennale. And of course, I cannot answer concerning my work. I think there is an impact. I hope, I affirm there is an impact into reality. I believe it as artist. I believe it. But I can only try with examples, I have to say, yes, art has an impact on my reality. And therefore, I mean, I want to see it a little bit larger, and well, not only visual art, but also the writings. And of course, the writings of Simone Weil, for example, has an impact to reality, I believe it. You have just to read, if you can, the texts, the titles. And also, to me, it has an impact. I can prove this, I can prove, yes, it has an impact. So the question, what is the impact of art on reality? I can affirm it has an impact. The difficulty, the tricky thing is, we artists has to resist to prove it in a way. But I affirm it, I believe it, but I don't want to prove it. So, for me, for example, Simone Weil, she said, ce qui est sacré dans l'art, c'est la beauté. I think that's beautiful, it's powerful. You know, she never gave up the beauty. She declares the beauty is the thing in art, the beauty. And I'm personally, of course, I like it very much because myself, I never, for example, sometimes people says to me, yeah, but your work is not really nice. And I always defend my work and say, no, it's beautiful. I wanted to do beautiful. Perhaps you don't find it beautiful, but I didn't want it not beautiful. For example, this, as an artist, to read Simone Weil, somebody who says it's the most important thing, the holy thing in art is beauty, is beautiful. It's just beautiful and an encouragement. And it's into my reality, it intervenes in my reality. But I'm not alone with this to insist on the beauty of art. So another book, another text. You know, Simone Weil, she died very young, at 34 years, and she never gave out a complete book. There is not a book, but there are a lot of texts. She wrote notes and also letters. And one of them is a contribution she made about colonialism. And what I really very much like in this, I don't know, can you read it in French, but depuis ce jour, je ne peux pas rencontrer un Indo-Chinois, un Algérien, un Marocain, sans avoir envie de lui demander pardon. What I really very much like is that she implicates always herself personally. She wants to ask somebody who suffered by the colonialism to forgiveness her, she. I very much like this position, always to include herself. She wants to ask for forgiveness. So this is powerful, I think. And Simone Weil has this power to implicate her so strongly into the things. Another thing, another text, it's, by the way, it's a letter. It's a letter, very touching, I think. It's a letter she wrote to a priest, Pater Perrin, his name. And, you know, she grew up as a non-practicant Jewish girl and person. And then she was attracted by Catholicism, by Christ, God, etc. And by the way, this was the reason I never read her, because stupid me, I didn't want to go into this. But then, when you read this letter to this priest who wanted to convince her to go into, I don't know the name, baptism, pape then, to be sacrificed, holy as a, you know. In this letter, she explained so rigorously why she don't want to get, in effect, Catholic, you know. When she writes, I love the saints, some of the saints. I love the people who believe, I love the spirituality, etc., etc., but I don't love the church. You know, very simple, very clear. Why then I don't need to go into this baptism. I don't need to be baptized. So this is another thing, I think, beautiful, in clearness, in rigor, intellectual rigor. And then also, for example, this text, it was published in a syndicate newspaper. It was a grave strike. There was a strike, and she described her joy. J'ai été voir les copains dans une usine où j'ai travaillé il y a quelques mois. Je passais quelques heures avec eux. Joie de pénétrer dans l'usine avec l'autorisation souriante d'une ouvrière qui garde la porte. Joie de trouver tant de sourires dans des paroles d'accueil fraternel. Comme on se sent entre camarades dans cet atelier où quand je travaille, chacun se sentait tellement seul sur sa machine. You know how she, beside the fact of what the strikers are fighting for, she works out the joy of the strikers to be together, to have no chief, to share everything. So this is the beauty, I think, and this is the kind of, I think it's very strong. And for me as an artist, it's an ongoing discussion about engagement, about for what to fight for, and therefore, to me, again, here is Simone Weil is absolutely into the reality. I mean, in my reality. So these are some examples why I'm so touched by her strength and her implication. You know, she went to war. She went to work really as a big intellectual woman. She went to war. She went to fight against the fascists in Spain. She worked in a factory. And so she always tried to really reach the reality, the hardcore of the reality. So something I want to share with you had to do with the exhibition in Liège. I call it the decision. You know, as an artist, what I love when I do exhibitions, to take decisions, because I love decisions, small ones, sometimes very small, but I love to take decisions. I don't say they are always the good decision, no, but you need to take a decision. Nobody else can take the decision. You have to self-decide. I like it very much. So there is one example, a stupid example. You know, with Anne-Françoise, when she invited me, this is one view of one of the exhibition places in Liège called Decathlon. It's an old shopping space. I mean, beautiful. When she showed me this first, she said, I was shocked, I loved it. It's a fantastic place with this green carpet, with the light, the neon light, with all these walls and pillars. That was the space. I loved it. And together, we decided with Anne-Françoise to keep the walls like they are, with the halls, with everything. We decided. And then, when I came, the day good on the right side, but then on the right, you see on the left side, I saw, it's clean on the floor. Somebody cleaned, but we decided before to keep all the struggle, the rubble and all stuff. So that was my problem, what to do now. Because I found it strange why there is clean and there is not clean on one side, on the ground. And then I went home and I'm in the hotel and what to do. And of course, as this is the picture before and then the picture after. And then of course I took the decision, stupid, the decision to put rubble also there on the ground. And I put it there, and now it's like on the right side and not more on the left side. So this is the same here. On the picture on the left, there was no rubble because somebody cleaned it, perhaps. And on the other side, then it's after my intervention in the morning before the opening to put the rubble. It's not a big deal, this, but it's still, it confirms me what I always thought as an artist, that, I feel often ridiculed myself in front of my work. But I think also you have to hold out this ridiculity. You have to hold it out, and when you hold it out, then I think you can let it be. And that's what we did. But I'm happy now. There is always the rubble. Even the rubble is there on the left side. You see, there is, of course, no picture on the wall because the rubble is not coming from the pictures that even from my work that somebody put on the wall and didn't clean. No, the rubble is there since always. I mean, since the Decathlon closed the space. So then I made a little leaflet to remember it, which I call La Décision, and put all the stuff on. This is, I mean, what's about, for me, be an artist, taking decisions and feeling stupid, but still trying to go to the essence of the work to make it the clearest as possible. In the work in the exhibition in the PEP in Hirsch was also one vitrine. I call it the Simone Weil vitrine, with two big books of Simone Weil and the text of mine. And Godard mentioned it before. Yes, I write. I try to write about my will, how I wanted to do it, my work. This chat was so wide, and I think to me it's a good way to put it in a vitrine. Why? Because I thought, when it's flat, there is another. It's flat. It's horizontal. It's not vertical. The chat posters are vertical, but my text is horizontal. So there is a difference between. But still, I thought it's good to have the text. So if somebody has time, wants to know more, he can or she can read it. And I cannot say that I like to write about my work. It's not about like, but I think it's really something important to me. It helps me a lot to clarify my position, to fix things, to just speak out what I want to do, because the competence to write is my work. So therefore, it's quite easy to me to write. So this is the text. You can also, if ever it's your interest, you can find it on my website. And now, you know why I didn't do this work for the Biennale Image Possible is another reason. First of all, I hope I made it for my attraction to Simone Weil. But then, of course, I was invited by my Parisian gallery, Chantal Creuset, to do an exhibition. And I decided to do the chat posters. So this is a view in the gallery space just 1 week before the lockdown in Paris. So these works could not be seen, by the way, in Paris, because after the lockdown there was only 1 week again opening, and people could come to the exhibition, but they had to sign in and to make reservation. So the chat posters were not seen in Paris. So therefore, I was so happy that the curator, Anne-Françoise, she called me and invited me to show this work. She invited me not to do something, but she wanted to exhibit the chat poster. And therefore, I was so happy that I have a second chance, that now this work is exhibited and can be confronted to the real public, the real people. And here, what I did then, because the gallery was closed, so me too, I did like a lot of artists. Now we do, and we have to do, and we will do even more. I did myself a virtual exhibition walk. So before the lockdown in Paris, I made myself a video about my exhibition. Nobody could see. And of course, as we know now, the digital and the virtual exhibitions and artworks and contributions are taking a lot of place and a lot of time. So then, that's another thing. After this exhibition, they came the lockdown in Paris. So, and I was completely in Simone Weil, and I decided, during the lockdown, I decided in my apartment here, that's my apartment in Paris, I decided to do, because I was completely into Simone Weil, to go a little bit forward and to do a Simone Weil map. I thought I will myself, in doing the map, I want to learn more about her work and her ideas. Therefore, I did the Simone Weil map in my apartment during this lockdown. So what I did, first I decided, this is only my decision, it's just me, an artist, who decided, okay, I decided 2 things I really think important, therefore I call it cornerstones. It's her radicality on one way, and also the singularity. So I thought I want to, on the map, this must figure the singularity and the radicality of her thing. And then I defined 6 things which I felt, I'm not a knower of Simone Weil, but just I felt, this woman, warrior, healer, worker, witness, and thinker. I thought these are the definitions. I would like a warrior, a woman, a healer, a worker, a witness, and a thinker. And then this, of course, with these 6 definitions, I try to come closer to what operates to me in her work. And then I decided active notions, you call it like this. It's grace, gravity, attention, the soul, the void, art, death, politics, work, purity, God, Christ, religion, anorexia, time, rigor, the world, history, love, eternity, truth, extremism, roots, joy, oppression, and movement. So I decided these words, these terms, and then out of them, I tried to make my map. For example, the term of art, I just read in her text excerpts, and then, like I made the chat posters, excerpts of text quotes, I put out, and always when she was speaking or writing about art, I put them together. So that was my method to map out the thinking of Simone Weil. And this is the map, the final map I did. And it's 4.5 meters long and 2 meters height. I can just read something which is in English and which is on the left, on the top left. So what I read is, stupid me, I always refused reading Simone Weil on account of religion, Christianity and Catholicism. Just now I understood that she is so sovereign, she's free, she's extraordinary, she's proud. She sacrificed everything for the poorness of love, truth, work. I love her extremism, her craziness, her anorexia, her absolute radicality and singularity. She is an example for every artist. She is an example for every artist, I think. She was not afraid of taking seriously the notion. She was not afraid of taking seriously the notion of loving the other and of paying the price for it herself. She didn't betray art. She asks life, what meaning does it have? So this map did accompany my days in the lockdown, and when it was over, I put it on my wall on the studio. And in the same mood into Simone Weil's thinking, I was also, for example, asked by a newspaper. This is not a newspaper, a magazine, a weekly magazine in Switzerland, Die Weltwoche, to do a cover. So I decided to do a cover to say, because the thematic was survive in a crazy world. So I proposed what is to do Simone Weil, to read Simone Weil. Some other works in the same mood. Simone Weil, I made medaillons. They're small works like this, 40 or 30 centimeters, more or less. Smaller works like medaillon. I call them medals. And there is why medals? Why I call them medals, and why, of course, in order to protect, in order to heal, in order to give good karma. Yes, I thought. But also, there is another dimension I'm interested in, because the medal can betray, can be an element against to wear a medal. And there, of course, there is this text Simone Weil wrote to Georges Bernanos, which is a writer, philosopher, French writer, philosopher, where she explained she was in Spain and fighting against the fascists, and then the fighters, Durutti, the hardcore fighters, they catched a young boy, 16 years old, and the chief, the Durutti chief, he asked this young fascist, because he was on the troop of fascism, he asked him to think about 24 hours. Will he renounce fascism and, or not? And, but how they get that he's a fascist? Because he has a medal of the Holy Virgin, has a medal. So therefore they know that he is a fascist. And after 24 hours, the young guy said, no, I don't want to renounce. So he was killed. So Simone Weil, in a letter, very cruel, but also very pure, she described this. This is, again, for me, an example of her radicality and her truthfulness. So, by the way, these medallions, and I'm also happy about this as artists, they're now in an exhibition in New York, in Gallery Gladstone, where there is an exhibition, a virtual, for the moment, a virtual exhibition in a virtual exhibition space. But it's really there also. So there are in New York City, Gladstone Gallery. So now I want to speak a little bit about grace to make clear or why I was, when I read Gravity and Grace, so struck and so I feel so implicated. And because myself, as I told you, I use the word grace. Certainly not I use it not really good or not appropriate often, but I use it. What I really love is the description of Simone. Grace fills empty spaces, but it can only enter where there is a void to receive it. And it is grace itself which makes this void. You know, therefore, by the way, I used also one of these active notions, the void. It's so important. As artist, yes, I am confronted often or sometimes on a kind of void, you know, into my work, to art in general. And I think this is a beautiful quote, encouraging me and helping me to understand better why it is so important to go through this void and to accept it as it is. So I want to try now with some examples to tell you why, when as an artist, I thought, perhaps I'm wrong, but I thought at the moment when it happened, there was a moment of grace to me. So this is this is the Dulles Monument I made 2000. And the Dulles Monument, it's a failure, my fault, my failure. Because it was the second of my monument series and I didn't prevent to be there all the time. I made it in Avignon, in an outskirt of Avignon in south of France. And it was a very good experience to do it together with the inhabitants. But after the opening, I quit and I went away. And this is my error, it's my failure. So after some days, we had to dismantle it because it was not more possible to hold it there. And this was not a completely failure, of course, but it was a failure. So and of course, there is a void because it's my failure, my error. By the way, I learned. So from this moment on, I decide when I do work with inhabitants, like my next work was the Bataille Monument, I want to be there all the time, not only for the construction, but also after. And when the moment of void, of course, I had to accept it. This is a picture of 2000. It shows Jeffel Goodgill. Jeffel Goodgill was the social worker which helped me to encounter the neighborhood in the outskirts of Avignon at this time. So the moment of grace came up when last year Jeffel called me and he said, Thomas, we have to celebrate 20 years of the movement. So, you know, for me, it was so a beautiful moment that somebody there, 20 years after, I mean, the Dulles Monument was a failure, was just there perhaps 2 weeks. Say to me, we have to celebrate. And that is a moment of grace which happened in my work of art, and it makes me happy. And by the way, we couldn't do it this year because coronavirus, so we will do it. We will celebrate with an exhibition, by the way, a little exhibition outside of Avignon Center again, this 21-year Dulles Monument. Another moment where I found I was touched by grace. it was when I made the Musepreker Albine in 2004, and this was a work together with the neighbors, with residents in Aubervilliers, by the way, where is my studio? And in order to construct the work, the idea was to exhibit original artworks from the Center Pompidou. Every week 8 different artwork, every week one. Very important artwork like Mondrian, Andy Warhol, etc. And I went there to speak to the people, and they say, yes, we help you, we will help you to do it, and we do it together. Everything was fine. But then after 1 year negotiation with the Center Pompidou, the Center Pompidou said to me, we need more time. We cannot do it. It was, there was a deadline, but they said we cannot do it. We cannot give you the artworks. You have not enough of, conditions and so on. And then there was really a void, because I was there speaking to the people, we will do this, and I couldn't. So I went back to the people, and I spoke to the residents, to the few residents who came, and I told them my problems. And I told them also that the Center Pompidou promised me that it will be later. It will come, but we need more time, they told me. And then the people, and that was the moment of grace for me, all the people said, we will wait. And this was a beautiful moment for me as an artist, because first of all, the people understood the project, and they understood the necessity of it. Because I proposed them an alternative, I think we can do something else, but they said, no, we want to wait. And of course, it was beautiful also because it empowered me to go back to the Center Pompidou and really say, we need now the artworks because the people, they want them. And therefore, after, I think, 6 or 7 months, finally we had. But this was the moment of grace, was this moment where the people said, we will wait, no problem, we will wait, we can wait. It's important that we have the origin. It's often together with these moments of grace, it's often together with real people who are in the reality completely. This was another moment of grace. I made the Gramsci Monument in 2013 in a neighborhood together with the residents for forest houses. And that was the moment where, to me, graceful was, why I made it there. Because I encountered people, they understood my project immediately. Because if they don't understand, you cannot do it. So this is Clyde Thompson. Clyde Thompson, it's very easy, by the way, to encounter people. You just go and call them. Can I come? He's a social worker in charge of the youth in forest houses. And I made a meeting with him. Can I come? Can I meet you? I have a project, want a project. He said, no problem, come. And then I was there, and then he told me, Thomas, what is the benefit for our community? And I told him, I'm not working for your community, I'm working for art. And that's the moment of grace, he understood this, that me as artist has not come from Paris, from working for them, but I'm working for the art. And this, because he understood this. Therefore, I could do the Gramsci Monument together with this resident because he understood it and helped me and was always behind me in this project. This was, to me, a moment of grace in my work, that somebody understood that I have to work for art. And I have no other argument than art. And he understood it. Another moment, there are a few moments, but I remember so good. This was another work I made in a museum called Remain Modern in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, in Canada. This was in 2018. The idea was to work to make an inclusive work in the museum, to invite people to share something. So the idea was called, what can I learn from you? What can you learn from me? People could come and to tell something what we can learn. And of course, especially what is special here was that in Saskatoon, there is quite a high percentage of First Nation people. And it was very important to me also to include them into, of course, into the museum, new museum, and to come. And then one day there's this woman coming, and she was talking. She was not the only one, because it's a very important issue in Canada. It's how the First Nation people was treated by the colons. And she was talking about her experience, her personal experience, about what the Canadians call residential schools, the schools where they have to go taken away from their parents, from their family, and they put them in religious schools. What was the moment of grace, and therefore I remember so much, is by chance, because the idea was there was no program. So she just came and spoke, and in the same moment there was a lot of young Canadian school girls and boys with their teacher, and we could see how, as a chance, and I think it was a graceful moment, they were so struck by her testimony about what perhaps the first time they heard about. So this was a beautiful moment, a graceful moment, because there was no intention, there was of course no program, there was no idea to make it happen, but it happened. And finally, the last moment, one of the last, is Robert Walser's sculpture. It's a big work I did last year in Biel, Switzerland, Biel. It was a kind of homage to the writer Robert Walser. Of course, I did it again. It was different than other places because it was very central. It was just in front of the central station. So I wanted to do it with the residents of the city of Biel. And okay, this picture is a little bit tricky because, of course, this is a Bryce, but the man is called Malik. And I know when I made fieldwork in Biel for 3 years, I know him because he is a resident on the place there. He's always on the place. And I didn't know that I must absolutely, when I do an artwork on his space, also, it's not only his space, but also his space because he's always there, I must absolutely implicate him. And this is just a picture from the beginning, because in the beginning, he held me so strongly. He's so a strong person. I was completely squeezed. And I know at this moment, this will be difficult. And it was very difficult. It was very difficult with Malik because he was always there, of course. And of course, it was no question that he's excluded. So I was, in one way, very happy that he's there all the time with us, with his alcoholism, with his drugs, with everything. So he was always there. But he was really very, it was very chaotic, his presence, of course. And it was very demanding, even when other people are coming to try to keep him away from the microphone, for example, because he was very attracted to the microphone. And why not? Because there was a microphone. So it was very difficult. And when I say void, I felt in the beginning, I felt myself in a void. How can I do this? How can I deal with this? How can I create a kind of cooperation or only a coexistence? And then, and that's the beautiful and for me graceful moment. Somebody came, a lecturer, which by the way we invited, about Robert Walser, the Swiss writer, and she read the text about a person called Tom Sock. For Robert Walser, he invented persons and figures in a way for everybody a problem. Beautiful, right? With us on the space. So the moment of grace was to read in the words of Robert Walser that there are persons like this on our world, and they have their sense to be there. This is, by the way, in the book La Promenade of Robert Walser. Monster, or the giant, he called the giant, is called Tom Sock. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. Tomorrow, I'm in the class of Anne-Françoise Le Suisse and have a seminar with more questions. They sent to me the questions, 34 I count. I'm very happy that they sent to me these very good questions, I must say, concerned questions about what it means to be an artist, what it means to work today. And I'm very happy and I will prepare myself this night to give sharp responses to their questions. So now when you have a question, please feel free to ask it. Thank you.
So maybe if you have a question, stand up. I think there are people with a mic, is that right? No one with a mic? Okay, they just stand up.
Yes? Okay. Can you help me? Because I would like to go back to the picture. Is it possible? I don't know. I made a connection here. Sorry. So yeah, I made it for you. I made it for you. Only for you, because when I'm not academic, I don't do this. When I read books, I don't do this. So I make it for you. I want to, and therefore perhaps it's not so. I make it for you because I thought, okay, they perhaps have a question. What he really likes Simone Weil. Why is so interesting? So therefore, I make it here, for example, or the other ones later. So I put it like this. You see. So that's why it's not so perhaps convincing for you. But it's what I thought. I mean, what is really what I found after what I think, okay, that's something I can share. How, for example, here, how I made it for this lecture to survive. Because myself, I don't need to survive. I know it, I read it, and I get it. I think I will get what I can, but I don't know. So therefore, perhaps a little bit artificial. I mean, this is another lecture, not the one here, but Malik, he was always there every day. So, his place. First, I told him, Malik, we have to share the place. It's your place, but also, it's not only your place, because the other people, it's a public space. Therefore, I'm so interested in public space. So, shared that place. You know, I think when you were so close, I mean, it was 86 days, and I was there every day, 12 hours, and he also. And, you know, you find a way with time, with, I think, with love, with respect, and also with, I mean, it's very fun person, very interesting person. He has problems, he has psychological problems, a lot of other problems, but he's a very interesting person, of course. And for example, what he did, so what I did, because you asked me this, so I thought, okay, how can I implicate him? So I said, Malik, we will do every day, you have 1 hour the microphone, because he was so attracted to the microphone, always, and he interrupted the others. I mean, there were some people, they had no problem to be interrupted. Because we are in public space, it happened. But some others were a little bit upset by it, and I can also misunderstand because I invited them to come to speak about this. So I told him, look, you have 1 hour every day, like the others, to speak. It's called Les Paroles de Malik. And then Malik, what he did, very good, he invited other people to come. And he invited a lot of me. This was a very new experience to me because I had to speak. We had a kind of dialogue to construct together, which was difficult for me, but it was very interesting, very, very demanding. But there was a lot of respect also because you can, yeah, I learned something from him. I learned something. We had every day, I mean, it was coexistence. It was a real coexistence, which I love. It was not trying to neutralize him or me, but trying to coexist together. That was, to me, Malik. Even now, I'm in contact with him, thanks to WhatsApp. So, you know, it's an enrichment to me. Yeah, first of all, I share completely this how can I say, this concern that the public space is more and more reduced today. For example, in a city like London, it's less and less. Even parks are now privatized. So first of all, I found we have to fight for public space. We have to absolutely keep the public space as public. That's the first. Then, you know, why public space as artist is so, to me, so important. I made 70 works in public space. Not all big, like, of course, the Robert Waltz's sculpture, but sometimes in the beginning, small ones and lots of people, sometimes nobody saw it. I love the public space because it's a confrontation with the time, with reality, with the world in a very condensed moment, and a very condensed spatiality. I love the public space because, you know, to the difference to exhibit in a museum, in a gallery, in an alternative space, in a biennale, I believe, this is one of my ideas, you have to decide the place where you do it. You cannot accept, for example, that I think that somebody else tells you, if you're an artist, where to do your artwork. For example, in front of a public building, or in front of a bank, or in front of an insurance company. No, I think if you can do a work in public space, then you must decide where it is. And therefore, it's so important where the work is in public space. So this is about the space, the importance of the location of the public space. I'm passionate by it to find location. I think that's interesting. And I found people helps to find it. Now coming back to your question, my outgoing point is always art. It's not because I learned, and by the way, with my project in Bronx, you know, my idea was not to say, I'll help you, but ask for help me. I was there asking for help. I told the client, can you help me to do the Gramsci monument? I took the decision to do the Gramsci monument. It was not the neighborhood, it was me, because I had this dream to do a monument for Gramsci, for Antonio Gramsci. It was my decision, and then I tried to find it. So I never go myself to ask or to tell the people, I can help you or I will help you, because I think I can't. If somebody helps the people, it's not me, it's art. It's the contact to art, and it's up to me to construct this platform, because I'm an artist, not a social worker. So I have to work out this platform. Therefore, I'm always going with this idea of art. Another point, why I love so much public space, is the precariousness of the intervention. All my work, all 70 are precarious. No, every work is time limited, because I believe in time limits. I believe that the precariousness creates the eternity, not the contrary, not the object, not the materiality, but the intensity of the moments you will live together with somebody there. That creates the memory, the time, the unlimited time. Therefore, I'm so interested by public space. So, about the dedication, it's, I think, always the artist or the artist group or the people who decide to whom make a monument or a work. It's not somebody else who said, we need a monument for these and these people. No. So it must be a real idea. Then the space where it is, it says so loud where it is. It says half of the artwork. The duration is important. The duration as a real moment of intensity forever. And also what can happen with the people. So what I tried, the last thing perhaps, not directly responding, because I have not the competence to respond on this. So, but because it's the public place, everybody who hangs out, who is there, is included. And never you can exclude them, because it's the public space. So you have to share the place and to find a coexistence, which I tried to explain with the example of Malik, but he was not alone, there are others. nature. I think it's obvious to respect nature. But respect means not, to me it means not to, how can I say, it means not to go, to take me as a part of nature. I mean, to understand me as a part of nature. You know, when I went, perhaps an example, for example, when I went to Saskatoon, Canada, there is, and I discussed a lot with First Nation persons, they have a strong connection to nature, of course. Still now, even when they're not more living out in the steppe, when they're living in the city. So, for example, I think one idea I get and perhaps can help us is the healing journey. You know, to understand that you can do a journey, you can do a trip in your head, but also perhaps a physical trip, which heals you. And I think there are ideas, I think very interesting ideas, which has not directly to do with the nature, because I'm not living in the nature. I'm not living in the nature, I'm living in a city. And of course, it's easy to me to say I am respecting the nature, but what I can, how I understand it is, for example, to think about what they do, the First Nation people, when they have conflict, they sit together and have the talking stone, you know, and it's not a discussion. It's not a discussion they do. Everybody can say what they want to say, how long he wants or she wants to say, and then she or he passes over the stone and then the next. So there is kind of a way, I think, to engage, which is not directly the nature, but is with our nature as human. So yeah, I think to learn from the other. So I would like to say this, I would like to be open to still learn from the other things. But that's how I understand the nature like this. You didn't say it, but there is some concern I have. You know, sometimes people completely say it, but sometimes people never promise. You're very working with waste, cardboard, silver paper, styrofoam, all these shitty things, you know? I'm working, yes, I'm working. But I'm not working against the nature. I'm working with this material for political reasons. I took 30 years or even more. So now, some people are coming and say, oh, this is not good to me. You know? So I said, oh, yes. So, but should I change now? Should I change my material? The material I decided to work with for political reasons? That's the question I didn't answer. But I think that's very important. I don't say I have the good answer or the right answer, but I want to keep truthfulness to the material I used. Because I know also that, you know, sometimes to use these kind of materials is perhaps not so good, but it's very visible and it's easy to say it's trash. This is not good for nature. But they are, beside a lot of other things, they're not visible. But they are perhaps even more. So that's how I can respond to the question, problematic of nature.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's all the problems, all the questions about career, for example, about being invited or not, about money, about, you know, all the things I have to deal with, we have to deal as artists. That's how I understand it. Sometimes this gravity you can, sorry, these gravity things you can, sometimes, to me, you ask me, to me, not to Simon and I, to me, what is heavy or can be heavy, sometimes easy, sometimes heavy, but it's like a logic who I think I cannot escape, and I won't not escape, by the way. But there are questions, to me, yes, not very interesting questions. For example, the time limit, to respect the time limit. So that's a gravity problem. To make a budget, all the kind of things that I have to confront. I'm happy that I also have to confront these questions. They have nothing to do with grace. They have to do, yes, with gravity, with the work we do, with the problematics it has. Is it criticized, not criticized? Is it exhibited, not exhibited, etc. That's, to me, the gravity thing. And I won't not miss it in my work. But this logic is sometimes, yes, I don't know, perhaps I found a method to deal with, and I think it's a good method, perhaps it's a very bad method. No, really, but that's gravity to me. All the questions arise into the work as an artist, which I have to deal also. I have to deal. Sometimes somebody wants something from me, but how can I say no? Whatever. Or I want something and I cannot get it, So that's the gravity.